Welcome to Whistleblowers in partnership with Wix Trade Pro. Coming up.
Fanta lemon tastes better in
abroad, yeah.
Yeah, when you're on a sunbed.
Morning, chaps. How are we?
Naranja.
Hello, mate.
You good?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Rory. Welcome back.
So I don't think we've met Gordon.
Gordon, nice to meet you.
11 weeks in.
Henry, Arsenal fan.
Good
nice to meet you.
The thing is, Mark, I saw you spouting about Arsenal's winner shouldn't have counted.
The winner, your only goal of the game. And PG World, didn't they? They come out a couple of weeks ago and said that they're going to clamp down on holding in the penalty area. 1 week in, big game, what do they do? Turn a blind eye. Guess why? Because it's Arsenal.
But the thing is, it's just refs wanting to rule out good goals, though.
What for?
It's like the Eze one. I thought that
What, is Mason Mount allowed to be having his shirt pulled all over the place? Forget about the goalkeeper.
It's a bit of give and take. It's a bit of give and take.
The weird thing about that goal was that, and I banged on about this last year, I think Arsenal get away with absolute murder. Jen, all this talk about Arsenal's cleverness at set pieces, right, is justified to a degree, but also a lot of it is just illegal. A lot of what Arsenal do in the penalty area is illegal. You're not allowed.
You stretch them all the time.
But on this occasion, I thought it was actually.
Is that not the David Brailsford thing?
Yeah, but you know, you're talking about.
This one was a fair goal.
Talking about stretching. Did you see what they did at the weekend? Because they won corners.
Yeah, I was there.
So one of the rules is that the goalkeeper can't hold the ball for 8 seconds. So what do Arsenal do? Try and stand in front of the goalkeeper. Which is stupid anyways, because the referees are told that won't start the 8 seconds if the player's trying to block the kick. Arsenal did it on numerous occasions because they want a corner. Why? Because they're great at set plays.
I found that interesting from your analysis of the Jack Grealish thing, that he was given the ball and told to draw the foul. Draw the foul.
Yeah.
Because you've got set piece. Villa are the same, aren't they? Set piece experts.
Well,
Brentford.
Arsenal, Tottenham will go the same way now.
Brentford's
Brentford's new head coach.
New head coach
But then they conceded within 5 minutes by a corner.
Sunderland's first 2 goals were headers. That was old-fashioned, wasn't it? Because you never saw that, did you?
Great headers as well.
The Ballon
don't say that. Don't say that.
They were brilliant headers.
No.
But you know what?
No, we're not talking about
Sunderland back.
No.
You know what I thought? So when I watch football, right, I'm like this when I play golf, right? Just bear with me.
Shite.
Bear with me. Yeah, shit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like,
Get the shanks.
Next subject, please. Yeah, next subject. You know, if I play golf, right, I'm going to make a par. I've got to make it with regulation par onto the green 2 putts. If I make one with a streaky putt, I'm thinking, well, that's not like to happen again. That's not really like a proper putt. It's like that with goals. All those 3 Sunderland goals, 2 from a set piece. 1 from distance. I think that the goalkeeper should have saved.
2 West Ham players jumping the same goal.
I watch those and think, you're not going to score them. You're not going to score them next week. You're not going to score them next week. That's a 3-0. That's an interesting.
There might be with Burnley.
To use the golfing terminology, then, is the first game a bit of a mulligan? Then,
it's
breakfast ball.
Well, I don't think it is. I don't think it'll feel that way for Burnley, will it? Having getting turned over at
but come on, what
I mean is, there are certain ways to win a football match, right? Yeah. And I just looked at Sunderland and thought, that's a great win for you, and it's great for the Premier League, the fact that we've got one of the promoted teams winning the game. But it's one of those days where it looked as though everything went for them. That's what I'm trying to
hold on, though, by those,
the expectation, they're playing at the stadium light, it's full. It's a different. West Ham haven't really had a great pre-season
as well, though. Regardless of how they got that victory, what they become off the back of that victory will be interesting.
Well, it's the thing. It's the first thing I want us to talk about today, actually, because I think the promoted teams, bar Burnley, who are. I don't know about you guys, but I think they look.
We know because I think can't judge Burnley after Sunderland. I think next week.
I think the promoted teams are. Is this do you reckon? Hopefully, with what's happened to Wolves and Brentford this summer, we can see more teams actually getting dragged into relegation.
Promoted teams this year have already shamed the promoted teams from last year. They've already been more impressive. Mm-hmm. Like beating Everton on the opening day is significant. Beating West Ham and Everton. Yeah, they're Premier League club, like proper established Premier League clubs. And they both got better.
So I've banged on about before, right? About styles of play and about coaching and the way that Russell Martin did it last year and the way that Ipswich tried to do it and the way that Company tried to do it.
This is 4-2-3-1 Ian Ladyman, by the way.
Talk about myself, as I like to do. When I was in Sunderland last week, and I did get 20 minutes or so with Labrie, the Sunderland coach, and one of the first things I said to him was, how are you going to play? Have you seen what the clubs did last? Surely you've seen that. And he said, I'm paraphrasing, he essentially said, we're certainly not going to be naive. We will be pragmatic. And he said, if you watch Man City and Arsenal, those are 2 clubs he chose. If you watch Man City and Arsenal when they've got the ball and there's a press on them, he said, what do they often do when they're really under pressure? They go along. They go along. So why would we, a championship club just promoted via the playoffs, attempt to do.
I thought they were
And
really
that's what they were good at. That's what they were good at on
And I
Saturday.
think that is part of it.
Be direct.
If you play to your strengths and don't try to be the next Pep Guardiola or Mikel Arteta, you've got a better.
They've got some big units,
better,
haven't they?
You've got a better chance.
So many people were being promoted and rewarded for like abject failure. Like Russell Martin made a pig's ear of that job. That sort of dogmatic.
See, we did last
He's
night.
having a howler at Rangers.
3-0 down in 20 minutes.
I mean, that defending, right? If you're
Why has he got the Rangers job off the back of the failure? Why has Vincent Kompany got the Bayern Munich
Yeah,
job off the
that's-
back of that?
I think it's because
understand it.
boards are absolutely dazzled by management speak. And Russell Martin
It was
has
it, yeah.
swallowed a
Yeah.
coaching
Philosophy.
manual.
It's nonsense,
Philosophy.
but
I think
philosophy.
his post-match interviews, though, I always think he seems really aggy. He just like digs out his players all the time. I think
He did that again last night. Would you care if it was Newcastle? Quite a bit to talk about with Newcastle at the moment, but if it were Newcastle and you just got promoted, would you give two stuffs about how you played as long as you stayed up first season?
It's a result-driven sport, isn't it? First few years,
No,
you need to stay in.
People do that, don't they? They talk about sort of the entertainment, like going to football.
can't.
Going to football should be seen as sort of entertaining. Like winning is entertaining.
That's what Sam Allardyce used to say.
That's all. That's all. My friends are Sunderland fans, and all they care about is the result because they would rather win 1-0 and move and stay in the
watch
Premier
the Fast
League
and the Furious?
than to
Hold on,
play
hold on.
good football and get beat 4-0.
No, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough for West Ham.
Oh, you boys.
No, but that's a different. that's a different
support-
board.
West Ham
Yeah,
way
it's
into that nonsense. They believe they're different.
Thing is, you all
think that
support
though?
established clubs, though, don't you?
Sorry, mate.
You all support established clubs that
Well,
never
you
get
don't know
relegated.
I support
Well, yes, I do. But I support. I support a club who've been relegated a couple of times, right?
What baffles me with you lot is that you've never just asked me who I support.
We have,
Who do you
but you
support?
just refused to answer.
Yeah.
Huh?
Who do you support?
I'm telling you.
There you go.
I pulled that joke on Chris Sutton 2 years ago, and you should remember.
Right,
But I tell you, just
Let me finish my point very quickly. You all support established teams in the league, right?
Stoke
I support a team who
teams,
got relegated, right? Hibs. So the season 2000, when I was following them, we won every game away from home. Went to grounds you never go to. It was brilliant. It was entertainment. Then you bounce back up, and it's a different game again.
Of course it is.
There is something about enjoying seeing your team winning regularly. I have to say, entertainment was great.
For Arsenal, then.
Well, whatever.
You're winning though.
Whatever.
Well, you made a point there, mate. Can I pick you up on that? You just said, when I mentioned West Ham, you said, they think they're different.
They do.
Do you think
The
they
West Ham way,
Do
is that what you're
you
talking
think
about?
they do?
No,
Do you
I
think
know.
they
I
actually
know
do?
they believe it. Like if you speak to a West Ham fan, I know a lot of them. Like they honestly say things like this, and they believe it. We know it's nonsense, but they go, "We won the World Cup, mate." You know all that kind of chat.
Yeah.
20 years before I was born.
Yeah, we won the World Cup. the
England
West
fans
Ham
never
way.
mention either.
And they start talking about the players that have come through the club. Like they and Tottenham fans to a degree, they really do believe that the game should be played in a very particular way. And certain managers won't get away with it.
Boys, I won the sweepstake on Rory hammering Spurs. It was 7 minutes.
I'd say at most clubs, but virtually every other club.
I'd say there's
Just
true.
winning. Be pragmatic
I would
and win.
say there's a bit of that at Everton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a
little
lot.
bit of that at Everton. For example, they weren't having Allardyce before he was through the door. They weren't having Dice before he was through the door.
Nuno Espirito Santo was never going to work at Tottenham.
This is interesting,
no,
actually.
no.
What are the top 5 teams whose talent doesn't match their ambition? If you know what I mean.
Let's,
Similar thing,
yeah.
isn't it?
Good chat. So with the with the show, I think we should get into when we actually start recording. We're getting into all this sort of stuff. I think the Premier League sort of like promoted team sounds really sort of good. Interested to hear you bash West Ham because we were doing talks
Yeah.
the other day.
Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
Gotta
you
bash them.
enjoyed
On this
yourself.
podcast last time you were here.
And Potter.
If
Yeah,
Potter,
yeah, exactly.
I get a
Howard
prediction
Potter.
right, you see. And
is Potter going to be the first one to go?
What was it you put in your story? You were like, I'm starting to warm to Potter finally.
Finally starting to warm to Graham Potter, absolutely.
Then we'll get into a bit of Chelsea, Crystal Palace, the disallowed goal. I know, Mark, you've got interesting thoughts on that. I do wonder, and you know, I'm interested to know about Cole Palmer a little bit here as well. I mean, no open play goal since January, and he's nominated for the Ballon d'Or. So you know,
Well, it's the same as that kid in Napoli.
what, Scott McTominay? Well, Jamie Vardy's new teammate potentially. I don't know if you saw
I
that.
thought Vardy was going to Celtic. That, by the way, that's the one.
Yeah.
For him,
That's the one
That's
he
the
wants,
one
isn't
that
it?
would work.
It's the one he wants, yeah.
that's the one that would work.
Imagine how much
Vardy and
trouble he's
Celtic.
going to get in Glasgow.
think
He
that-
scored 30 goals in that division.
But there's only one team, isn't there?
He scored 30 goals in that division.
Sorry, two. Sorry, there's two
I think what
Hibs.
Scotland needs for diplomacy reasons is Rebecca Vardy in Glasgow.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
The new First Minister.
Yeah.
That could be quite interesting.
But just following the Crystal Palace chat and the goal that was ruled out, referees given public speaking classes. Mark, interested to hear your thoughts on that.
It's a shame Mark missed out on them, isn't it?
The thing is, well, he gets them
What
down
a
through this.
wait, I man.
But my point.
Bit for bacon over there.
My point with this is, I just think that the the way that the referees announce the decisions to the crowd, I find that completely pointless to me. As a fan in a stadium, it's the same thing that gets written on the big screen. And
mansplaining.
I don't know why we can't hear the conversation.
This is one step. This is going to be one step further. I think what they're trying to do is step by step. I think this is one step where the referees are going to be comfortable speaking, because some aren't, and they're getting better and better. Once the VARs are quite professional. When I've listened to them, when I've worked for, when I was waiting for BT or Amazon, they're very professional. Once they get them two mixes and they're comfortable, then you'll hear the audio like you do in rugby. Because rugby's very professional, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like gladiators.
Then we'll,
Wait, 3, 2, 1.
we'll move into the David Moyes out for the leak, the Ratter Everton.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The Jared Branswaite.
It was my idea.
Hamstring injury.
My idea, I've forgotten about it.
Ian, it's Wednesday.
And
The name is.
and then finally, I think I've not really got much scripting in for this bit, but I think a word for Sky Stout.
Yeah.
The Kilmarnock girl.
I want to go straight. I want to say a fucking point. It's fucking.
Yeah, mate.
I'm sick of this fucking social media.
Well, the thing is, the good
horrible.
news is she scored a belt of a free kick.
Good on her. Good on her.
It was a great.
But they slated the kid from Morecambe as well, haven't they? The social media. What's it got to do with it?
That.
He's gone through a hell of apprenticeship to reach where he has at 30 years old. Good on him.
Youngest guy in history, I think, to get coaching badges.
He's had an amazing story,
Incredible
isn't he?
story, man.
Yeah.
And same with this girl. It's an incredible story. Why we're wanting to bash them?
I think people might think it's nepotism. I think that's the issue for some people.
He served his apprenticeship though. He was working with Colo Toure. He was a Leicester, wasn't he? He's pretty shifting.
There's another one as well. He's played under.
Was it Wigan, Leicester?
At what age can you be a manager? What age can you be a boss? I was 32.
Will Stills.
Again,
I like the energy. Should we actually get into it and start?
That's only because of the coffee. That
Finished?
Right.
it's just done now, isn't it?
we trained you.
Lad, I'll be in your ears. See you in a minute.
Right, welcome to Whistleblowers, the half-baked, half-cooked, tepid, lukewarm football podcast with three disgruntled men and a bit of the youth policy today as well. We've got grassroots Rory Jennings with us, who took 7 minutes in the pre-prep meeting to batter Spurs. So we're looking forward to you kicking West Ham and telling us that Graham Potter is done. Is that going to happen soon, Rory?
All of the above is completely accurate.
That's what he's here for. I've got to tell you as well, right? Ian Ladyman, I met the man that you've unfortunately been living in the shadow of for nearly 25 years this weekend. Spent a lovely bit of time with Darren Fletcher, who I understand was kind of your guiding light in local newspapers. He was the man you learned everything from and has gone on to have a fully fledged media career on the actual telly.
Yeah, proper. You mean Dan Fletcher, TNT, rather than Dan Fletcher, former Man United and Scotland midfield?
My pal Darren Fletcher, your pal Darren Fletcher.
Yeah, Dan Fletcher, yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd describe him as a driver more than a mentor.
Right.
So for what you're alluding to, so I was on the Nottingham Evening Post 20 odd years ago, 30 years ago, and Darren was working for Century Radio, they were called. And Darren was very, very good at getting to know footballers in a way that I wasn't. So it made sense for me to get to know Darren very, very, very well because he knew the footballers. He also had a company car, which meant that when we were doing away trips, for example, Nottingham to, off the top of my head, say Swansea or something, Darren would drive. I'd claim the X's. And Darren,
he went via Glasgow to Swansea.
Darren would drive. Now there were some drawbacks to this.
Yeah,
Darren drove very, very quickly, very, very, very quickly, and talked just as quickly. Yeah. However, we used to also take Darren's co-commentator with us, who was Larry Lloyd, the late Larry Lloyd. God bless him. For those of you who don't remember Larry, centre half for Liverpool and Forest back in the day, won the European Cup with Forest, and was the co-commentator. But Larry became a very, very big guy. Bless him, a very, very big guy. Ran a couple of pubs when he retired. So Larry would be in the passenger seat, I'd be in the back, and we would stop. We'd usually stop for KFC on the way. And the first time we did it, Larry went out to get the food and came back with a massive family bucket of KFC and got in the front seat. And I was waiting for him to dish it out before I realised
it was for him.
It was all for him. And one quick story. Start of one season, first away game was at Port Vale. Port Vale, right? The first day of the season was like it was at the weekend, baking hot. And the press box at Port Vale back then, you had to climb up a ladder and get on the top of a stand
with Big Larry
to watch the game. And as Big Larry came down the ladder at halftime, I bumped into him and said, "Fucking hell, Lado." So you could padlock paddle a canoe down the crack of my arse.
What a brilliant opening to the podcast. Jesus.
Happy new season to you as well, Mr. Lloyd.
There's an image for you. You know, it was funny though, spending time with Darren in Dublin. He's obviously had a good summer.
Great lad, Darren.
Great pre-season. I mean, he was the same sort of colour as Mark over there, Clattenburg, you know.
He must have a good old in.
Lovely, expensive clothes. And I look at Ladyman today, you know, that tan off a Kindle, you know.
Yeah.
He had his
Wearing my best clothes.
2 weeks at Centre Parks. He could have been Darren Fletcher.
He's still using his expenses from the Nottingham Post.
And finally, we have...
If I'd known the way my career was going to go, I would have invested a few of those expenses.
Yeah.
We have TV referee, semi-professional golfer, the one and only Mark Clattenburg. All right, Mark.
Thank you.
How's life this week?
Yeah, played a bit of golf.
I played a bit of golf.
Yeah.
I want
But
your
it was, I
life.
tell you what, it's a bit hot.
Was it too hot?
40 odd degrees in Malaga. It's too hot.
That's
too hot to
brutal.
play golf.
That is brutal. You're going to go back to Dubai for us, or Saudi for a colder climate.
Well, may as well. Yeah, I tried it.
It's about time, but you're well, Mark.
Thanks. Yeah,
And you're
all
off on your
good.
travels again this week.
Yes, I'm off to take my daughter for her first experience of New York.
Oh, tremendous.
So I've actually got to do the family things. But my
your
wife,
walk?
I haven't
Can
told
you
my wife
sit
yet.
this
No,
time?
I haven't told my wife yet. She's dropped the right bollock, hasn't she?
I see.
She's got a full programme. We've got to do this at this time, and me.
Yeah.
I'm like, no chance. Monday, Dumbo, cross the Brooklyn Bridge, 9/11 Museum. Great things,
Yeah.
but she's
about what your
forgot.
daughter might
She's
want to
forgot
do?
one thing:
What's that?
Newcastle, Liverpool.
Down a
So I think there could be a little bit of an issue at some point.
yeah.
It could be a discussion.
How's it feeling to be a Newcastle fan this morning, by the way?
I'm happy.
He's dumped all
No, listen, now it's time. Now
powerful
it's
statement.
time. Let's get rid. You know, people are calling them rat, they're calling them all sorts. When I saw the fans turn at Aston Villa on Saturday,
Yeah.
that was the turning point. And I think now it's time. Get him out. Because
What
if
was
a
the
player
song?
doesn't want to play for your club,
Yeah, get rid of him.
get rid of him.
Get him.
Is there anything in the principle of just saying you are not leaving? Like, do serious clubs sell their best players?
If they're unhappy, I think there's times where you've got to say enough's enough.
How
I
does it
think
play out with the
you know
Saudis, though, from a
I think a lot of
leadership
players.
point of view?
I think a lot of players don't want to play in the northeast.
Yeah.
That's a fact. It's difficult to recruit players in the northeast. They want to be in London. They want to be Liverpool, Manchester's, where it's probably a better quality of life. But he signed a contract. He was happy with his contract. He's played well enough. What I can't understand is if he's that furious, why not put a transfer request in? What's he not got the balls to put a transfer request in and say like the olden days, like we used to? Why are they saying?
I wonder. Well, you know the answer to that. Put your transfer request, you lose all your money.
Correct, but then have the frigging balls to do it
But
instead of using the.
What struck me last night, that I don't know from a legal point of view, that kind of is a transfer request.
Mm-hmm.
They could probably use that if they do eventually
for good
sell
lawyers,
it.
yeah.
They could probably use that as saying, well, you've
It's a
essentially
declaration,
asked.
wasn't it? It was an
But
aggressive
why are the
declaration.
club pussyfooting? It seems to be from an outside. Why are you not finding them 2 weeks' wages already?
I think the club must have to acknowledge as well that they've made a pig's ear of the situation.
Yeah.
They would have sold him if they had signed Sesko, Delap, Burma,
Ekitike.
Ekitike. If they'd got anyone over the line, they would have sold him.
Yeah, but why did Liverpool then go back to that argument? Liverpool could have had what they wanted. We had the chance to sign
Ekitike, and they wanted both.
and they wanted
By
both.
the way,
Both.
But don't all want both. But the fact is, if we'd signed Ekitike and Liverpool signed Isaac, this situation
They
wouldn't
thought
have been
you'd get
solved.
Sesko.
who, by the way, having seen Sesko, the Arsenal lad whose name I still can't pronounce,
Gyökeres.
and Ekitike, I've seen them all because I was at those two games.
Ekitike, the one?
Well, on that evidence.
On that
But you
part
can't
evidence,
say
yeah, on that
they're
part.
at home against
Yeah,
Bournemouth.
Yeah, come on.
The Arsenal lad was away at Old Trafford. It's harder, obviously.
Yeah.
But on that evidence,
Can I pick up one point very quickly?
Yeah.
See this whole notion of not being happy in the Northeast?
yeah.
I don't buy that now because most players, even at City, Man City, will get a private jet and disappear to
the
New York
world's a
for a
very small
weekend.
place.
Yeah, but
I
it
just
started
and also
years
living
ago,
on the
didn't
Northumberland coast, playing golf in Berwick or whatever
No,
it is.
it is, but it came years ago. Can you remember Rob Lee?
Yeah.
Rob Lee, it was so difficult to get Rob Lee from London up to the Northeast. But every player, including Rob Lee, will say, every player that's played for Newcastle will say one thing: what a great city. I loved it up there. It was the best time I had. But trying to get that
is.
player
Roy
up.
Keane said something, didn't he? When he was manager at Sunderland, he said the wags won't come or something like that.
Yeah,
He said
you know,
it
it's
was very
so
good.
difficult.
I mentioned it to Regis Labrie last week when I saw him at Sunderland. I asked him about it, and he didn't push it back. He acknowledged it, and he said, "Yeah, well, essentially, he said." There were lots of planes to London. He just said lots of planes to London, and he said you've got to give them the right incentives to come. And that's what we've done. And he meant money.
But then if that's the incentives, money, that's when you create the problem in the dressing room, don't you? That's
he also talks about the club, and the bottom line is he acknowledged that it's an issue. One of the things that did make me laugh last night in bed when I saw the Isaac statement drop, shows how early I go to bed these days. Was that line, which I don't think anybody else has picked up on it.
Is that the cryptic one?
Hang on, now having to...
The line from the Newcastle side? Or
no, the line...
There was a line in the Newcastle statement as well that shocked me.
There's a couple of...
in the line in the Newcastle statement...
Just a bit from Isaac when he goes, I've kept quiet. Yeah. Well, hang on a minute. What's the most famous... Prior to last night, what was the most famous utterance ever from anyone connected with Newcastle United? Kevin Keegan, 30 years ago to Sky, I've kept really quiet. That's how he started it. The Fergie.
Do you think that's a deliberate?
Of course I don't know, but it just makes me... I would love it if I ended up at Liverpool. That's how we should have finished it. I would love it if I'm out of here by Wednesday.
What a toxic stadium it's going to be on Monday.
It's going to be hate.
It's going to be, because that game's fierce anyways because of the rivalry.
You know, we were saying about the North East and the issues and whatever of getting players, attracting them. That isn't what this is. Like Alexander Isak wants to join one of the most exciting sporting projects in world football. This isn't his way of moving to a more, arguably more glamorous part of the country. He just wants to be part of the champions. Wants to be part of what they're building. I don't think this is his way of angling out of Newcastle. It's a sporting matter. They've signed Aaron Ramsdale. He's looking at Wirtz. He's looking at Ekitike. He's looking at what's going on at Liverpool, playing with Salah, playing with Van Dijk, icons, and he's looking around and he's going. Aaron Ramsdale, it's not inspiring for the best striker in the league.
One thing I want to pick up on that actually, because I think it's quite an interesting thing, is that atmosphere you're talking about. It's going to be lively. Think about other games you've probably covered, Ian, right? When Sol Campbell moved across North London, Ashley Cole, the Chelsea move.
When they had all the £50 notes with his face, they had him on the pitch.
What's the one that's the most toxic? Mo Johnson for Celtic and Rangers.
I've done it, haven't I? Because we talked about the Figo. I was at the Figo one when he went back to the new camp for the first time with Real Madrid, Pig's Heads and all the rest of it. And for those who didn't listen to that episode, the chairman or president of Real forbade him from taking corners in case he clocked a coin on the back of their head. Steve McManaman refused to sit next to him on the bus on the way into the stadium because he knew what was going to come through the window. So I absolutely can't top that.
I think Mo Johnson might be the one. So Rangers had never signed a Catholic. Graham Souness comes in as manager. He's about to sign for Celtic and then goes to Rangers. It's a mental story.
Can I just say though, and Roy, you might have a take on this. I think this can turn. This can turn back. Despite the fact that he's in this corner, and he is in a corner, and at the moment you would say that only Liverpool could get him out.
I'm not having that.
No, seriously.
I know what you're saying. I get that the fans are so against him now. Look, I've never seen how the fans have
got it in him because it doesn't sound like he has. He would have to say sorry.
No,
but I tell you, look, Wayne Rooney considers signing for Manchester City, by the way. And I
know what Geordie fans are like. I remember Mike Ashley, and I was in a VIP area, and we'd just been beaten off Man City, and all the fans were going to give Mike Ashley a load of grief when he gets up on stage and does his address to the fans after the game. The moment he got up on the stage, you know what he said? Guys, I'm really sorry for the performance. By the way, everybody in here can have a free pint. He got a stand ovation. I went, he's a turn coach. I know what you're saying. Fans can turn, but this is more than this now. This is literally one thing. That statement last night.
Wayne Rooney had Man City in his ear. That's probably a better way of putting it. Wayne Rooney had Man City in his ear at that contract standoff, right? Steven Gerrard thought about going to Chelsea twice. By the way, so come on, and no one talks about Steven Gerrard in anything other than legendary terms.
They always performed. They always performed. Like John Terry at various points was linked to Man City as well. Like those things do happen, but I feel like the performances have always been there. Alexander Isak was at Sociedad on his own. Like his rehab wasn't even happening at the club that are paying his wages.
I'm saying,
and if you refuse to play.
He'd have to.
I don't think Steven Gerrard, unless they made an injury up, or Wayne Rooney, or all these players we've just discussed, Isak has refused to play.
I think there's something else going on as well. I think that's just the focal point of all of Newcastle's disappointing action over the summer, isn't it? I think Newcastle fans are even angrier.
The public face.
It's just making it worse, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. And we're still one game in. We've got no CEO. We've got no sporting director. We're still in the club going backwards as an organisation.
I don't see how you mentioned all the names before, Rory, of the players that they've tried to sign or they might sign, but lots to talk about Whistler at the moment. But he's not a replacement for Isak. It's a totally different type of
totally different
player.
player.
Everything that Alexander Isak is doing to Newcastle to go to Liverpool, and the Geordies, the season ticket holders in the Gallagher livid. It's exactly what Whistler's doing to Brentford.
Yeah. Isn't it?
It's like the hypocrisy.
What did Anthony Gordon did it at Newcastle Everton?
Yeah.
He did exactly the same.
Right, boys, we should talk about, let's get started with the relegation situation as well, because what I thought it was really interesting how it played out. Everton were flat, weren't they, against Leeds? Yeah. Quite surprised by that. Sunderland, as we've already said, that was an emphatic win. Brentford and Wolves losing convincingly, weren't they? But Rory, I mean, I don't know what you can draw from that. Like we said, is it a mulligan, that first game of the season?
Not
what
for
can
West
you read
Ham
into
especially. I think if you focus on the West Ham one, that was probably like the jewel in the crown of the performances from the promoted teams. I think that West Ham are in massive trouble. I really do. Like the way that the club are run, the signing of Callum Wilson feels like such a red flag to me. Like, didn't they put him on $6,000 a week? And then he'll get $100,000 every time he plays.
What's the problem with Graham Potter?
He's simply not good enough to manage that club. And you know, when you think about certain managers that just don't work at clubs, like if you believe he's a good manager, I would contest it. Like, people will tell me how well he did at Brighton, and again, I would contest that. You think about what De Zerbi did when he came in after what Potter did. But even if you believe he's a good manager, some managers can be good but not good at certain clubs.
Yeah.
Benitez wasn't a good Everton manager. Benitez wasn't ever welcomed at Chelsea. Hodgson at Liverpool's a good example of like an established manager that couldn't work at a particular club. Graham Potter, everything that he is, everything that he represents, it just doesn't chime with West Ham fans. What
Graham
they
Potter.
want to see.
Why is that then, Rory?
I mean,
Is it style of
I think
play?
it's style. I think it's personality. Who do they like? If you think of the stereotypical West Ham fan, the way they view the world, the prism that they see society through, who do they love? Bobby Moore, Paolo Di Canio. Who is the antithesis of Bobby Moore, Paolo Di Canio?
And is that because of your experience at Chelsea with him?
Yeah, he's flat. He's flat. He's weak. He's an uninspiring
He also had a
person.
massive squad. Is that not a problem?
Disagree with that. Disagree. I don't think he's flat. I don't think he's weak. I don't think he's uninspiring. I dealt with him a little bit when he was coming through, and a little bit at Brighton. I think he's a good coach. I think he's a good manager of players. What you say about De Zerbi, I think De Zerbi built on what Potter left him and developed it, but Potter built that platform on the back of what happened when they got rid of Chris Hughton. Okay, but you're absolutely right about personality and managers being right for certain clubs. And given that Graham had been out of the game for however long it was, over a year after Chelsea, and had obviously turned down opportunities at places like Ajax and other clubs, and had got close to going to Leicester and then walked away. Clubs, do you think, yeah, that'll work for you? And then he takes that job, the West Ham job, and you think, that isn't going to work for you, and you're not going to work for them either, by the way.
Like those
and
owners.
it baffles me that he couldn't see that, and that they couldn't see that.
But how many clubs do we see now, and we can count on quite a few teams where they've had a style of play, they've won things. West Ham won the Conference League, which was a great step forward, but they don't like the style. The fans were against Moisey, didn't like the style. All of a sudden, we want this sexy football. What is sexy football? What is this football?
I think West Ham fans have dealt a little bit of a harsh ride here, simply because they didn't want Moyes. I remember they had that banner at Fulham away, didn't they? Like Moyes out, when they were still going to potentially win European silverware that year, and they ended up winning it. But I think what's happened since, they've got rid of Moyes, so they got their wish, and then they replaced Moyes with Lopetegui. It's sort of a B-Tech version of Moyes, so that was never going to work. Then they've gone in a totally different direction altogether. I think what West Ham fans were saying at the time was, they've won European silverware, they're positioning themselves as the London club. Now was the time to go for an established appointment, an exciting, noble, progressive appointment.
They got the wrong Brighton manager, didn't they? You want De Zerbi and not
De Zerbi
Potter.
at West Ham.
De Zerbi's the guy they wanted.
It did make me laugh to hear Karen Brady on TalkSport at the weekend. Fair play to her for fronting up and going on the show, but talking about how affectionately about Graham Potter, but also talking about the type of club who like to kind of grow things and give people time. I'm thinking, no, you're not. You're absolutely not that at all.
Ian,
Give it 4 or 5 games, because if they keep losing.
Did you see the Jared Bowen interview after? Because I think he looked quite defeated. and like a worried man.
Yeah.
Can you read that into that with a player when you interview them at this stage of the season? I think you can sense it, can you? I
sat down with Howie Winks last year at Leicester, and I was interested in Winks because obviously he'd been a good player at Spurs, and Gareth Southgate loved him with England for a while. Then he got a bit lost, and anyway, it was back in the Premier League with Leicester, so I went to see him, and he couldn't stop talking about Enzo Maresca, who at that point was manager of Chelsea, and Steve Cooper was manager of Leicester. And it was just clear, sometimes it's not what people say, but what they don't say. Yeah. And I walked out of that interview thinking, blimey, that lot are not having Steve Cooper at all. And actually he was binned within about a fortnight and blah, blah, blah. So sometimes you can.
But also everything that I've said about Graham Potter, it's my opinion, and it's sort of through emotion. Yeah. Let's just look at the facts. Look at the way that his team set up against Sunderland. Look at the decisions that he's made, the personnel. Like, how is Potts not in that midfield? A midfield of Guido and James Ward-Prowse. Of course, you're getting beat. Yeah. You've got the very least. I think Potts should have played, but at the very least, Souček has to play.
Well, perhaps let's analyse it through the prism of those post-match interviews, right? Because Moyes has been tetchy this week, I think, as well, isn't he? There's a leak in the dressing room, wasn't there? Yeah. So, there's an issue there. The post-match West Ham thing, Karen Brady already on the front foot, on the defensive on radio, talking about the club.
And the worrying thing about Graham, I've certainly written this before, I don't know if I've said it to you guys, the worrying thing about Graham Potter is that to me, he looks like a different person.
Chelsea's damaged them, hasn't it?
So essentially, we all know, right, that football changes people, or it can change people. Some people, Kevin Keegan, absolutely irreversibly damaged by what happened with England, for example. Yeah. Different personality. And Graham looks a little bit like that. He looks a little bit like he's beat that. The damage, the blows he took at Chelsea, some of which were not his fault, some of which were, he's still feeling, and he's got to get out of that and go back to the Graham that believed in himself, who had a wider view of the world, who had the ability to be phlegmatic and the ability to see context and put things in the right context. He needs to go back to that, because if he doesn't, then he'll die at West Ham.
He tried to redefine himself, didn't? Do you remember that during that Chelsea period, he actually changed the way he looks. His whole appearance changed.
Do you think Chelsea damaged him then? Do you think that move to Chelsea,
pre and post? Yeah. I think Mourinho's the same. Mourinho pre and post Real Madrid, he was a different man after it.
Will West Ham go down? Do you think?
Yeah, fingers crossed. But yeah, I think.
I think this. Do you think
it'll go down, Ian? West Ham?
No, because of the dross that will probably finish beneath them.
Will West Ham go down?
At the moment, no.
Right.
Because they'll do what West Ham always do. If they think they might, they'll sack him, and they'll find a way to.
But we've had conversations after conversations. If the newly promoted sides start well, you'll see casualties.
Yeah.
And that's when the pressure will start hitting on Brentford, West Ham's, your Wolves.
Panic.
Yeah.
They're in panic mode.
Get in touch, whistleblowers at dailymail.com. Social accounts, X is at BlowersPod, on TikTok at Whistleblowers Podcast, and on Instagram at WhistleBlowersPod. Right, Crystal Palace, disallowed goals. I've got a challenge for you, Mark Clattenburg. I remember, I don't know if when you were younger, if you were ever in the Cubs or the Scouts, and somebody could recite...
12 Marylebone.
Can you recite any of the rules or the laws or any of those things?
There weren't any at my Scout group.
Look at a handbook. Was there no handbook, no?
See, I thought, Mark Clattenburg, as a referee, you'd be able to recite lines.
I promised to do my best. There was all of that, wasn't there? I promised to do my best, to do my duty.
Hold on, I'm going to my test for you, right? Law 13.2 of the IFAB rule states what, Mark?
I don't have a clue.
I never did.
It's like your driving book, wasn't it? Remember you just drive, don't
you? It's like policemen can recite that. The Telecommunications Act 1998, you've transmitted an image that you shouldn't have done, Mark Clattenburg.
I have done that.
So, right, let me remind you, Law 13.2 of the IFAB rule states that where 3 or more defending team players form a wall, all attacking team players must remain at least 1 metre or 1 yard from the wall until the ball is in play. I'm surprised you couldn't recite that.
That is correct. And guess what year it was brought in? 2019.
Right, 6 years old.
It was brought in 2019 so that an attacking player can't stand in a wall if there's more than 3 defenders. I agree with that. I haven't got a problem with it. However, when VR was brought in, that law, right, wasn't covered under the VR protocol. Yeah. So it was classed as a restart. So, like a throw-in, like a free kick that wasn't 9.15 metres away, once the referee has set that wall, the VR wasn't, under my belief, wasn't under the VR protocol to interfere. So if that player is less than 1 metre away, at this present time, it's not in the VAR protocol that the VAR can interfere like you can with a penalty. When you've got encroachment on a penalty, it's in the VAR protocol that he can interfere. This isn't written down. It was classed in 2019 as a restart. This is the first time in over 2,000 Premier League games that this law, even though it's been broken how many times, we've seen goals being given, it's the first time that the VAR has interfered. It happened in Europe a couple of weeks ago in a Europa League match, and it's happened in a Premier League game. Me and him were talking before. When Darren England announces to the stadium, in his very eloquent English, that he's disallowing it for Mark Gahey, that he was less than 1 metre away from the wall at the taking of the free kick, I understood it immediately. As a referee, I can understand it. But I'm thinking, that's not what the VAR is for. If he'd said it was for a foul, which the VAR can interfere because it was a goal, he can interfere that it was a free kick. I just think it's an easy free kick. We can argue and it's debatable, but I still believe that Mark Gahey is gaining an advantage by moving that wall out of the way and moving that player out of the way.
Is VAR just going to rob us of good goals then? It's simple as that.
Yeah, but you've got to follow. If you're going to follow the rules of football, then you've got to follow the rules of VAR, haven't you? You can't have it both ways. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying you can't do that.
But let's be clear, Mark. It was just a foul. I mean,
for me, it was.
Gay has just barged his opponent out the way to make space for. I mean, regardless of whether he should be in the wall or not, it's just a foul.
But don't leave. But you can't leave.
Crystal Palace have got no right to feel aggrieved about it. It was a foul.
Yeah, but Page and Well can't leave themselves open by all of a sudden changing the protocol to suit themselves.
But ultimately, it was the right outcome. Because it was a foul.
But do it in the right way. If you're going to explain to the stadium, at least tell the stadium what the right reason is. It's a foul.
Did it protect Chelsea, Rory?
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is the thing. I think that quite often you can get these decisions that are correct in the moment. But I don't know, I saw a thread on Twitter that somebody had gone like painstakingly through a lot of free kicks since the introduction of VAR. Yeah. I think the notable one, Bruno Fernandes scored a free kick against Arsenal.
Yeah. I was at
Bruno Fernandes scored a free kick against Arsenal where this exact thing occurred and the goal stood. Yeah. So I think it's the inconsistencies that are driving everybody mad. But yeah, we got away with it because I don't think anybody, even though it was a foul, like any Chelsea fan that was in the stadium that's about my age would have watched Ricardo Carvalho do that time and time again every single time that we had a set piece.
What does it tell us about Chelsea though, this game, by the way?
There's a vulnerability.
A lot of people were tipping them second, third. And actually, Palace are the team that have got momentum out of
Can I ask you a very broad question, Rory?
That'll depend on us.
Question. How does it feel to be a Chelsea fan at the moment? Because I just look at them every year at this time of year and just think, I look at new players, in, out, new. Look at the starting lineup this season to last season, but you're the world champions, blah, blah, blah. How does it feel to be a Chelsea fan?
It's a really interesting question because I can only speak on my behalf in the way that I feel about it. I don't like the direction of travel from the club. I don't like the ownership. I'm worried about the rebranding. I don't know if you've been to Stamford Bridge lately, but you'll see that there's almost no reference to the word Chelsea anywhere.
Right,
it's all CFC London, CFC LDN, which I think is part of the move potentially because the pitch owners own Chelsea. And you could call the club something else if they were rebranded. And I don't like the way that it's going. I think when you get billionaire venture capitalists from America into the club, I think that it could be dangerous.
Was that more dangerous than an oligarch?
In terms of the motivation, I think. Yeah. In terms of the motivation, I think that Roman Abramovich was a benefactor. We could debate whether he was good for the game or not. But his motivation was to create a successful football club in Chelsea.
The one thing you could say about that era of Chelsea is that spine of the team was so consistent, wasn't it? Czech, Terry, Lampard, Drogba, right? Yeah, and everything was built around that spine of the team. And now I look at Chelsea every week and think,
well, also, you're not trying to build a brilliant team.
Identity.
Under previous owners, what you would do is think, and this is the same at basically any club. You look at Tottenham potentially signing Eberechi Eze. The reason they're signing him is because he's a wonderful footballer. He'd elevate their options. He's a better player than James Maddison, who is sadly injured, and he will bring a better team to Tottenham. Chelsea aren't signing players like that. We aren't trying to build a better team. We aren't looking for frailties in our squad and trying to replenish it. Mm-hmm. we've got one of the worst goalkeepers in the league. He's still the goalkeeper, but apparently we're going to sign Alejandro Garnacho, another inside forward.
So that's what I'm getting at, Roy. And you mentioned the word there, Gordon, it's identity, right? I talked to you, Mark, about your football club, clear identity. You feel an identity, an affinity with your football club. Gordon, Hibbs, obviously can't talk about mine because nobody knows who it is. Rory, do you, and this is what I do think about Chelsea fans, that identity that you clearly felt for the great Mourinho teams,
Mourinho, Dennis Wise's team, of course.
Do you feel an identity with your club, even though it wins things?
I do, but it would be, I don't feel as connected to the club now as I did a decade ago, or 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, even under Bates. Bates did a lot of good things for Chelsea, but there was issues with the fans. He wasn't always supportive of the fans, and he was the first person to acknowledge sort of new football, creating the Chelsea Village. But that team of Di Matteo, Erland Johnson, Dennis Wise, it was iconic. Dan Petrescu is one of my favourite players now.
And that's really difficult, isn't it? Because that's what football's about.
Yeah.
If you don't feel emotionally invested in your team, there's no point. There's absolutely no point.
But then there are moments where you suddenly do again. There are moments where you suddenly do when I see Cole Palmer put in that performance, and Cole Palmer's actually somebody that's a real tonic to what I was just talking about.
Correct. Yeah, I can see that.
I feel when I see Cole Palmer pick up the ball, I feel like I'm 11 years old watching Ruud Gullit.
I can see
that.
I
feel it's Arjen Robben, Eden Hazard.
Is that because you've lost legends in your club?
I think there's just.
Have you got because when you had Lampard, you had Cole, you had Terry, you had Petr Cech, Carvalho, Drogba. There was a love, wasn't there? There was it.
What about Cole?
Is it because the player? That them type of players aren't available anymore?
I mean, I've certainly. I mean, I love Trevor Chalobah, and I feel we're an affinity there. But the way that we've had, like, in my opinion, Conor Gallagher should be in Chelsea's midfield. Like, there was a period not long ago when Jody Morris and Frank Lampard were the manager and assistant manager.
Mason Mount.
We had a team that was like Tomori at the back, Tammy Abraham in attack, Mason Mount in the middle, Reece James. And I think that was one of my favourite seasons following Chelsea. Like, genuinely, over a Christmas period, we went away to Arsenal and won, and went away to Tottenham and won in 7 days. Like, Lampard celebrating like mad on the touchline. It was possibly my favourite ever era of like that season.
Do you feel like Cole Palmer's one of your own? Because I
love him. I do love him. I really do.
Feel like a City player.
Well, he's a Man United fan anyway. So.
Is he? Yeah, fan who played for City.
Yeah, massive Man United.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. He's nominated to the Ballon d'Or, right? But I think he's only scored from open play. What was that in the beginning of the season? Once since January.
Gordon Smart, you're better than this. You're not.
You know what we're getting from you, Rory.
You can't do this. No, like this.
Listen,
preoccupation that people have these days with stats, I think it's ludicrous, like absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah.
He's invariably the best player on the pitch. And in the period that you're talking about where he hasn't scored from open play goals, he's scoring in front of the president in New York City, open play goals against Paris Saint-Germain, the European champions.
Where was he against Palace?
Yeah, he had an off day. Yeah, we didn't play well against Palace until the final few minutes of the game when we brought on Liam Delap. We went a bit more direct, and then I thought we were going to score. I thought we were actually going to nick it.
Mm-hmm. So you've got to get more from him, though, haven't you?
I think the manager, like, when we've been discussing certain managers and their commitment to a particular ethos, and I'm very snide about it. I don't like it. I don't understand why it happens. Enzo Maresca has that in him. I think he's been a little bit more malleable of late, but he has that in him. But I don't think that his approach naturally brings out the best in any Maverick. Like, Cole Palmer is the closest thing to a 1970s Maverick throwback footballer that we have today.
He is Alan Hudson.
Yeah, he is Alan Hudson, absolutely.
If we look at Palmer and we see a young footballer who the first half of last season basically dragged his team through the first half of last season on his own, the only consistent performer, the only consistent scorer of goals, the only consistent creator of goals, why are we therefore surprised that when it gets to January, he might just go like that and wilt under all of that workload?
What we've got to remember here is,
and he hasn't had a summer off, guys.
Yeah, but that's what I was just about to say. That's what I was just about to say. Chelsea have had no break.
Yeah,
so you've got to give Chelsea a bit of slack here. They've been playing in huge temperatures in the United States.
You know what, Mark? I thought that was going to mean that we start the season well.
I
thought it was going to mean that we could have a problem.
I think it's the opposite way, because once you've had them 2 weeks off, you've had that little break because you had to give them a break. You've then started again, and I think if you start pre-season and then gradually come in, nobody's played really well in pre-season, but there's some teams played, like Sunderland, for example, didn't start at all in the pre-season, and they've started well in the Premier League. It's peaking when they're coming through. Chelsea have had no break.
Okay.
Give them a bit
Did
of
you
slack.
referee Cole Palmer, by the way? Did you ever catch him at the big? No.
Too young.
No,
Too young.
Be like,
what a
be
talent.
about 9
What a
years old.
Yeah. Mine was...
What a talent.
Mine was
He's brilliant
Gaza.
to watch. Right, let's talk about David Moyes again, because this injury leak story is quite a big deal in Merseyside, isn't it? Hamstring injury was the issue. It was leaked to the press. And he said he's going to weed out the rat. The quote is, "I'm sure the insider within the club will give it out. I'm sure of that. We're going to find out who has given the news out. I'm unhappy with it. All managers would be the same. It's certainly coming from within our building, and it's up to us to find out who it is, and we will do." Listen, this is your bread and butter, Ian Ladyman.
Used to be.
Would there be... Is that the kind of language and candour from a manager that gives you the fear as a journalist who relies on sources?
No, you know what? First thing I think about that is if I'm an Everton fan, I think, yeah, good on you, absolutely,
Yeah.
okay. And it's also a clear message to his players, because it'll be from a player's agent. We know that.
Yeah.
It won't be from Brantford's agent. It'll be from one of the other players' agents, I would imagine. Okay, so that's first. As a journalist, what interested me about that is that Moyes has phrased it exactly the right way, because I remember a time when Moyes was manager of Manchester United, and I was covering them. Obviously, he wasn't there very long. And there was a leak, and it was David McDonnell of the Daily Mirror who was getting the team news stories, okay, for a period of about 2 or 3 months, which is when you're covering Man United, that's a lot of team news stories that you're breaking, and it was a bit of an open secret where it was coming from, okay, and I'm not going to out the source now, but we kind of all knew who it was, okay.
Why can't you tell us that?
I think it would be just unfair on David for a start. They were okay. It was a player's brother. That's all I'm going to say. It was a player's brother.
There we go.
Right?
That's enough.
And we kind of knew that. And what I couldn't work out was that David got very upset about it and banned Dave McDonnell from press conferences. In other words, instead of finding the rat or finding the leak, finding the source. He shot the messenger and said, "You're not coming to our press conferences anymore because this is wrong." So, well, it's not that's not wrong, David. That's kind of journalism. We can debate that, whether it's right to leak team news, especially when you're covering England. That's another half of it. Or you're letting the country down by telling everybody who's going to play for England in the World Cup semi-final. Mm-hmm. That's a debate, okay? But at club level, it's your job, get the team. So at least what I'm saying is David appears to have moved on from that. Because back then at United, I was just thinking, for God's sake, David, we all know who the bloody leak is, mate. Why don't you? You know what I mean?
I still get chased about the leak of an England story, you know.
Whereas
the last story I wrote in national newspapers in the back pages was about the Roy Hodgson alleged racism in the dressing room, which caused a massive issue in that England team. But I was accused of a Scottish agenda trying to disrupt the England team. But it came from players.
So I'd be interested to know what you guys think about this. So last year at the European Championships, there's a group of England, and I'm not one of them, but there's a group of the guys who cover England who were very, very good at this stuff. Okay, it's 2 or 3 of them very, very good at this stuff, getting the team. Back in the day, if you got 9 out of 11 of an England team at a major tournament, you're doing very well. These days, they get it without fail. They get it without fail. And last year during the Euros, Gareth Southgate, who generally was very, very cooperative with us lot, got the hump when a story was written that England were going to go to a back 3 for the game against Holland, was it? Yeah. Doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. And Gareth really got the hump about it because the story was written that he was going to a back 3 and he massively got the hump. And there was a bit of a let's say, powwow between some of us writers and the FA about it. So their view,
right.
So the FA's view was, you don't need to do that. You're not helping us. You're letting us down. Why are you doing it? I'd be really interested in what you 3 guys, Gordon, slightly different, you're journalist, but equally what you think about that.
It's unpatriotic, it's traitorous.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Why?
Wait.
Because
if they're tactically,
do you not want to know?
You're opening up tactics, aren't you?
So do you not want? So if that
the greater good is me not knowing. I do want to know, but the greater good is me not knowing. Nobody should know.
But our responsibility is to our readers, Rory.
Yeah, but
it's not. As long as we're not kind of betraying government secrets and putting national security at risk. It's only football, guys. Our responsibility is to our readers. But you've just said to me that you want to know.
Yeah, but it's the journalists that have caused this issue because now, for example, when I'm working for Amazon Prime, you're getting the snippets of the team. seconds before it's announced. Nobody's revealing it one day before anymore.
So you think it's wrong?
You said to me, you used to sit down with managers years ago and they would give you the team. Even before maybe sometimes before. You're now getting teams that even the players are not finding out till 2 hours before?
So Thomas Tuchel has been quite smart.
Because they're scared.
Thomas Tuchel has been quite smart. Well, actually, you could say it's an obvious step, but he's done it. So Thomas isn't naming his team until the day of the game. And that means that the team will leak, but it won't leak until about 2 hours before kickoff rather than the night before. So that's just, now Thomas says that's nothing to do with us. That's just the way he likes to do it for the players, likes to keep the players on the toes. But that with England, from the FA's point of view, that has.
But look at Arteta, for example, last year. What did Arteta do? When he set up his warm up completely different to how just to confuse the tactics. Why are coaches now and a half before, an hour before when they're warming up, they're analysing everything, they're trying to work out the smallest detail. Yeah. And if they're finding out the team,
have you ever seen Klopp,
on a day of a morning of a
Klopp
game?
Was managing Liverpool, he would always stand in the centre circle and watch the other team on position. I found it fascinating.
I thought he was watching me and me warm up.
And you know what? Klopp was. How's the best way to put this? People like Arteta, Guardiola, pretty university popular amongst other Premier League managers. Yeah. Klopp was a bit Marmite, and the ones who don't like him, of which I know a couple of them, that he really wound them up.
Yeah, really. But there was mind games. It was all mind games, man. It was all mind games. Yeah. Even just standing there, the presence of him being there to wind people up, that's what works.
But the fact that at least two managers have mentioned to me how much it wound them up shows it probably works.
Yeah, it does work.
Can I take a different look at this as well? Because I like to reverse engineer the situation a little bit. In whose interest is it to release that injury?
The opposition manager.
Right? So I know about the hamstring injury in the Everton case. Who really has a motivation? Why
inside the club?
Why has that come out? Who's trying to do it?
So you could be, Roy's right. Could be a disgruntled player, but equally, it could be, and more likely to be, an agent who has a relationship with a journalist, and it's a bit of favour quid pro quo. It's always favour for favour.
So watch what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, because I think there'll be another story to come out of Everton. I think there's a deal being done there, or I'll give you a little bit of information. Something else will come out of it.
Moyes needs to get Rebecca Vardy involved. She'll sort this out.
There was a setup.
No, she's moved to Glasgow.
There was a setup at one club, and I can't mention it, and I can't mention journalists because it would be unfair. Yeah. But there was a setup a few years ago whereby a certain journalist was getting so much information out of a club that the club was seriously obsessed with it and wound up. And they thought they'd nailed the sources down to a couple of, and they essentially, I think they left a bit of paper in a room with something on it that was incorrect, and waited to see if it leaked, and it leaked, and they worked out. Therefore, so these things.
I've also been on the receiving end of red herrings.
Yeah. Have you?
Where I think that's just too good to be true. That story. And if it is too good to be true, the chances are.
There's easy ways to do it, because when I was head of referee and I used to do the appointments, and in Greece, everybody was obsessed about the appointments. And mine were getting leaked. And I'm like, how are they getting leaked? And it was the girls, and the admin girls.
Really? Why?
Yeah, because all the clubs wanted to know who their referee was. And even the travel company was involved with a foreign referee. There was an obsession to know. And in the end, what I did, I just started playing about I gave 3 different appointments out. And you found out which one leaked. You know the girl who. It's easy to do. Moyes will find it.
It's detrimental to what Moyes likes to build as well, isn't it? When you think of the way that he likes to manage the team,
old-fashioned Scottish leadership. There,
it's not nice if things are getting leaked against you.
And I'm glad he's called it out. Strong leadership. Blah 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 blah.
It's not a popularity contest. You only need 4 to carry your coffin, son.
These journalists, they should.
I know. Yeah. Listen, if people want it, don't they, Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly Ladyman's pros. One final note, a bit of solidarity for Sky Stout, 16-year-old Kilmarnock footballer. It was a horrible story this week. Got stick on social media when her picture was put out there, and I thought it was just nice to offer her a wee bit of support, because the goal she scored, if you want to talk about her football, was an absolute screamer. Free kick, 20 yards out, top corner. That's how you reply to people.
When I saw the free kick, I was proud, because I'm sick and tired of people getting knocked on social media. And I'm for social media for the right reasons. But why are we using it to knock a girl because of her looks? Yeah. Why we're not praising her for her skills? Yeah. What she did. you know, and good on her to stick up, you know, and I know it's not easy. Social media is brutal at times, and she'll feel it, but the only way she can answer that is by playing well and scoring goals, and good on her, because you know what? It puts the doubters back.
Exactly.
Want the keyboard warriors that are writing that shit.
I've never met anybody more formidable in women's football than Erin Cuthbert. Just get Erin on side to sort all of this out. Mark my words, she'll look after her. But yeah, Sky Stout, what a career that lies ahead of her. Right, that's it for the latest episode of Whistleblowers. We'll be back on Tuesday with another instalment. In the meantime, please email us, whistleblowers@dailymail.com, social accounts, X @blowerspod, TikTok @whistleblowerspodcast, and Instagram @whistleblowerspod. I've got a funny feeling that the referee's forgotten the most important tool once again. Can you do the honours, please, Mark?
You know why I don't bring it anymore? Because he's a deaf. Every time I used to blow it, he used to complain it was too loud.
How many whistles have you got?
I've got lots of whistles.
Can you not say it like we're in a bar in Benidorm at 3 o'clock in the morning?
Would you like to see me whistle?
Oh my God. Just a window
Those
into
of you
your...
not watching on YouTube, you're very, very fortunate.
It's going to be unfurling that line in New York in about 3 days' time.
Yeah.
Right, blow the whistle, Mark. If you want to watch more episodes of Whistleblowers, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll keep you up to date all the way through the summer with everything that's happening in the world of football.